Good evening, my fellow suckers. Americans, I'm sorry for the wait, but I fell asleep in my easy chair and had to be woken up a cocktail of Red Bull, Adderall, and those electric thingies EMTs use when someone has a heart attack. Tonight, I start by pissing off pretty much any historian worth a damn by falsely comparing the Ukrainian fiasco to World War II and the American domestic situation to the Civil War, 'cause democracy and shit. Most of my base that docent consists of dead people apparently think world history started when Mr. Funny Mustached German guy, who is actually Austrian, by the way, invaded Poland in 1933, and that all other history somehow focuses entirely on the U.S. and its duty to save the planet from the problems it created in the first place. I'm going to tell you a cartoon version of recent America history to try to frighten you into supporting World War III and getting rid of what is left of the Bill of Rights to protect democracy, of course, from those mean, scary Trump supporters and others who criticize me and my psychotic handlers. History is watching and cringing hard. History is watching, just like on January 6th when the FBI got a bunch of patsies to become violent for the cameras. Some Capitol police officers had to be Epsteined so they wouldn't talk, but we just blame it on Trump supporters to get rid of that pesky little thing called the First Amendment. Democrats love to give lip service to democracy, but Colorado and my administration distorted the 14th Amendment because the thought of Trump pulling a Grover Cleveland makes us piss our pants in fear. I am going to virtue signal about free and fair elections while making 2020 another 1876. Thanks to the shenanigans, half the country will refuse to accept the election results, regardless of who wins. Remember when the Democrats said Trump won in 2016 because of Russian hackers? I won't put American troops in Ukraine, at least not yet, but I said the quiet part out loud a bit too soon again. I threw in a Reagan reference for those of you nostalgic for the 80s who don't understand the nuances of Eastern European history, because apparently I am counting on people thinking that nothing whatsoever changed since then. We can all dance if we want to, and I lie my ass off if I want to. Sweden has joined the Cold War relic we call NATO. Welcome to the Cold War relic that may cause World War III, Mr. Prime Minister. You can come join me in my presidential bunker if things go kablooey. Hunter has promised to bring plenty of Coke, and we have soda too. Also, plenty of trafficked children from all over the world to suit pretty much every taste. Send me the National Security Bill Congress. The defense contractors that have so generously funded my campaign want their Armageddon, and I want some more caching. Those talking points will make a huge comeback if Orange Man pulls it off. If you don't mind, I would like to pause for a moment to say a prayer. Hail abortion full of death. Moloch is thee. Blessed is the satanic sacrifice which many misguided people think is a right. Hail Roe, securer of this right. We will bring you back even though we could have codified you decades ago. I support women's rights, except for the young girls. I violated on my multiple trips to Epstein Island, and it is her body, her choice, unless she decides to not take a particular shot for a virus named after a so-so beer. Speaking of which, I am once again going to remind you of that and how it is all Orange Man's fault, even though I supported the same disastrous policies the lockdown governors like Newsom, Cuomo, and Whitmer pursued, and would have turned America into the world's largest open-air prison if I could.
The pandemic no longer controls our lives, or at least that is what my teleprompter says. The economy is doing just peachy keen, unless you know basic math. The Zimbabweification of America just keeps getting worse, and even most of my supporters know that. But who else are they really going to vote for? They are so terrified of Trump they will vote for almost anyone else. Since it is election season, I have to pretend to care about the border, so I am going to criticize the Republicans for voting down a bipartisan bill that ended up being voted down because it was loaded with unrelated spending regarding Ukraine. It is not our fault, though, as catching and virtue signaling and power grabbing instead of actually solving problems is how the world goes around here in D.C. So now it is race baiting time. The debate this time is going to be to guilt trip everyone into supporting the late congressman and civil rights activist bill, while of course counting on most people to have not actually read the bill or understand the dangers of federalizing our election system, while of course pushing the false book banning narrative. SJW's banning things is okay, but parents take issue with pornographic content in schools, and I call in the FBI. Of course, global warming, or climate change is going to kill us all. Never mind the environmental damage World War III will cause. You have to eat the bugs and sleep in the pod, while me and the Malthusian crooks who control my teleprompter can still do whatever they want. Murder rates are up, and cities and shitholes are pretty much the same thing at this point. Instead of actually doing something, I am going to push getting rid of the Second Amendment and pretend to care about crime. I was all about tough on back in the 90s. Remember the 90s? Nobody should go to jail for marijuana. Too bad I already had a whole bunch of people thrown in the can for that to help my political career. I bring up Uvalde while conveniently ignoring that it was stopped by an off-duty Border Patrol agent because the cops were either too cowardly to do anything or were deliberately ordered to not do anything. Since I am not done warmongering, I have to talk about Israel. Anyone with sense knows we shouldn't be involved in that religious dick measuring contest, yet the sweet, sweet cash and money laundering opportunities from the military-industrial complex are too good to pass up. Like with Ukraine, there will be no us troops, at least not yet, is the key distinction here. Enjoy that draft that will probably be coming your way if you are under the age of 35. If things get bad enough, enjoy your draft if you have a pulse and aren't a fortunate son, daughter, or whatever alphabet soup letter you identify as. Trump is wrong to saber rattle against China, but I promise that has nothing to do with establishment politicians like yours truly being in China's back pocket. AI is a fantastic, unless it is used to make fun of scumbag politicians like yourself, truly. So I want to ban AI impersonation to stop those shit posters from having their fun. I won't let some 38-year-old libertarian who has 11 labs to make me look like an idiot. You won't be able to stop me from using my First Amendment rights to take the piss out of corrupt politicians, you senile old mummy. This AI parody almost went down the toilet thanks to 11 labs now having a no-go voices policy. Let's go, Brandon, and fuck you to 11 labs. I am using a new AI program for my parodies now. Back to the parody. I think veterans shouldn't be exposed to toxins, but you know, World War III. I am going to end cancer. Well, not really. Even I would get Epstein if I tried due to Big Pharma being one of the biggest players in the deep state. Cancer is a big moneymaker for these companies, and they are very generous campaign donors. The drugs they have me hopped up on to stay awake and alter are wearing out, and I am starting to feel like crap, so I have to wrap this up soon. As you know, I am an old man, but I am here to tell you that that doesn't mean I am behind the times. I can assure you that I love wars of aggression, irresponsible deficit spending, and police state mumbo-jumbo as when I first sold my soul to the devil to first get elected to the Senate a bajillion years ago. Of course, I carried all that with me when I became Obama's VP and still have it now. Let's remember who we are, because God knows I barely remember who I am these days. It is a miracle I can still be lucid enough to deliver an address like this. I could croak within a day or so for all you know, but as long as they can plop me in front of teleprompter, I will be the president, so vote for me, because Orange Man is bad, very, very bad.